Hello, this is 10 Things You Didn't Know About Midnight Marauders on Back to the Boom Bap. I will be enhancing your phones and TVs with certain facts that you may find interesting. Large Professor, Pharrell, and the 90s group Jade will be discussed on this program. We hope that you will find our presentation concise, well researched, and just right. Thanks. The Tour Guide. Over this Steve Biko instrumental, let me introduce you to the tour guide from Midnight Marauders. I did my rendition of it in the intro, and if you've heard Midnight Marauders, you'll know she shows up multiple times throughout the album. But you probably didn't know anything else about her. Well, according to uprocks.com, her name is Laurel Dan, and she's a former Jive Records A&R, which is the label that Tribe was signed to. And unlike the music you have to listen to when you're taking care of business and waiting for a representative, every time this lady came back around, she was saying something thought-provoking. And speaking of provoking thought, this is gonna really blow your mind. If you remember, when the album starts, the tour guide says, "Hello, this is your Midnight Marauder program. I'm on the front of your cover." Well, in an interview with MTV, Q-Tip said the tour guide is meant to embody hip-hop. So that means that the lady with black, red, and green all over on those Tribe album covers represents hip-hop. Tip said, and our lady in front of it, we figured the lady is hip-hop. We use this lady as a symbol of our music, a beautiful woman. The Award Tour Baseline. When I discovered this fact a few years ago, it blew me away. The Award Tour bassline is inspired by the bassline to Don't Walk Away by Jade. I say inspired because Q-Tip didn't sample it, but it's so similar that after I show this to you, these two different songs will remain connected in your mind from here on out. Alright, so I'm going to isolate the bass lines of both songs so you can hear them better. Okay, this is Don't Walk Away. Alright, and this is the Award Tour bassline. You see what I mean? They're super similar. The album cover. This has to be one of my favorite album covers of all time. It's up there with Doggy Style and Liquid Swords in my opinion because I'm really big on how things look visually. Looking at my copy of the cover right now, I can name probably like 90% of the people on the front and back of the cover. A site called The Boombox wrote an article that states that there are 71 hip-hop artists on the Midnight Marauders cover. In an interview with Yo MTV Raps, the late great Phife Dawg said, "We try to get everybody that we can to get on this album cover, trying to promote hip-hop unity." And did you know that there are 3 different covers to this album? Each cover has a red, green, or a black border. The black border covers are the most rare. For 30 years, I've looked at those clocks and have not understood why they belong on this album cover. But now I know what time it is. Literally. Check the time. The time on all the clocks are set to midnight. The most loved kid analogy. The title of this segment will make more sense once I tell you that in this Red Bull Music Academy interview, Q-Tip was asked about the low-end theory versus Midnight Marauders debate. He goes in depth in comparing the two albums sonically and gives his answer to the question of which classic is better.
I mean, the debate is always between Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders. And I mean, sonically, I mean, how do you compare the two? Because, you know, they both have this impact. There was a lecture with Bob Power at the Academy several years ago, and he talks about how with Midnight Marauders it was meant to be grittier in conceptually. And he felt that in a way he kind of messed that up because it sounds even more state of the art in a lot of ways.
No, I don't think that was the case. I think Midnight Marauders was meant to have that sheen that it has. You know what I mean? Like I thought that it was meant to, if anything, it was meant to be boomier. Yeah. You know, in the tradition of low end, but it was always meant to have like a nice sheen to that record. Because if you listen to Low End Theory, Like a lot of that sizzle at 15K stuff, like for that 8K stuff, for all the engineers in here, like it's really hard to hear it. Maybe on the remastering, but when you listen to the original, like a lot of that top is muddled. We did a lot of that record on the Neve, like on what everybody calls the John Lennon Neve, because they had that in Battery. So we did a lot of Low End Theory on that. But when we got to Midnight Marauders, we were on the SSL, and it had a little bit more sizzle up there. So it just has the top, it just has a little bit more sheen. Yeah.
The drums are louder too.
Yeah, the drums are louder. Yeah. Which is good.
When you sit back and listen to these two, can you compare them? Do you have a favorite?
It's like a kid. Do people who have kids have favorites? Anybody? Oh boy. Nah, I guess they're their own thing. You know what I mean? They're their own thing. There's definitely, of course, similarities, but I don't know. It was hard to say. You know.
We interrupt this program to let you know that if you're a producer who makes boom bap beats, you can get Back to the Breakbeats. It has 100 drum sounds, including drum hits and drum loops. It's linked in the description and the pinned comment below. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program. The Midnight Marauders meaning. I'm guessing that A Tribe Called Quest figured that we would be wondering what the title of the album meant as we were listening to it, because it's revealed to us on the album by the tour guide. At the end of a war tour, she returns and says, 7 times out of 10, we listen to our music at night. Thus spawned the title of this program. The word maraud means to loot. In this case, we maraud for ears. The One Mic Marauders. Midnight Marauders got 4 mics in the Source. For those that don't know, the hip-hop magazine The Source did what's called the Record Report, where they would review hip-hop albums. The review had a rating system with 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. And it was written by award-winning filmmaker, producer, and writer Dream Hampton. This analysis was penned at a time when the Source magazine was still relevant and what number of mics you received really meant something. And with that being said, in my opinion, as ironic as this will sound, Tribe got marauded because the Source stole one of their mics. I'll link the review below so you can read it, but Hampton really didn't say anything negative about the album, other than she felt it was missing the late MC Hood and that she didn't like the tour guide. And there may have been someone totally different who decided what rating the album should get. And I think this may have been one of the albums that the Source retroactively awarded 5 mics after the fact. However, none of these things justifies them giving 4 mics to a classic album that I've been listening to since I was 12 years old, which was 30 years ago. So let me stop boring you with this rant and tell you.
A Tribe Called Quest consists of 4 members: Fife Dog, Ali Shaheed Muhammad, Q-Tip, and Jerobi. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y.
The Keep It Rollin' story. Let's hear the story of the song Keep It Rollin' from the lens of the live guy with glasses, the legendary Large Professor. Large Pro is the only guest feature on the album, and this song is one of only 2 songs not credited as produced by A Tribe Called Quest. This song was produced by Large Professor, and 8 Million Stories was produced by Skef Anselm. In an article from Complex.com where he was breaking down classic records he produced, Large Professor spoke about the making of Keep It Rollin'. That's when Tip had his equipment in Fife's basement. We used to just go through records. We would go record shopping, go to Fife's basement, throw the needles on the records, whatever. So we would go through our batch of the stuff we got that day. So there was this joint and I looped it up. And my boy Tony Rome and Yusef, they had looped it up a while ago. And I was like, yeah, that shit is hot. But I never really knew what it was. But then I threw that record up there. I was like, oh shit, I remember this joint. Then Tip was like, yo, that's dope. Then I threw the drums to it and it was cool. And Large Professor was just so laid back that he just made the track and didn't really think nothing of it. I didn't think they were gonna use it. It was crazy. He was like, yo, I'm in the studio and I got that joint that you looped up. Come on, let's rhyme over it. And you know, we were going record shopping together while he was working, so it was like I would hear the work he was doing in his sessions. He'd come through like, yo, check this out, and play me lyrics to go. And I'd be like, yo, that shit is crazy. Some people think there are too many podcasts. I think there are too many bad podcasts. A bad podcast has a bunch of people laughing and yelling, talking over their guests, and talking about nothing. A good podcast inspires you, causes you to think, and maybe makes you want to change aspects of your life. The producer who missed midnight, Pharrell Williams from the Neptunes, loves A Tribe Called Quest. Pharrell used to travel to see Tribe in concert all the time, which is how he got on their radar in the first place. In a Drink Champs interview with The Tribe Called Quest, Q-Tip talks about how Pharrell almost had a verse on the Midnight Marauders album.
Yeah, right.
Man, you remember he was supposed to be on Beach Round the Line.
Come on, go talk
Yeah,
about
Pharrell was on got a verse
on Midnight Marauders actually.
But then he came back with Beach when Tammy did Once Again.
Yeah.
I coached him through the joint on Battery.
Yeah, the first joint though with Pharrell was Midnight Marauders, and we were like, y'all, I was like, I fuck with this nigga, so I was like, yo, come to the studio. So it'd be a bunch of these dudes that come to the studio. He would be one of them that would come to the studio and
in
shit.
Virginia.
No, he would come from VA to New York.
To New York.
He just started working with Teddy.
Yeah. Wow.
Teddy Riley.
Because on the low, a lot of people don't know that he ghost produced Bumps and
Rum Shaker and all that shit. Yeah. So he was like on a come up with all that shit. So he actually first started. He put a verse up on Midnight Marauders.
But in this next clip, you'll get a better understanding on why I didn't make the album.
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now if it weren't for Q-Tip. That guy still, to me, is like everything. Like, he would just say hi, and I'd be like, ah! They let us in, and you know, he gave me a shot to rhyme on one of the songs, and I wanted it so bad that, like, as I'm like rhyming, my voice went out. It was like hoarse, and of course it sounded like trash, so it didn't go on the album. And I should have been devastated, but I was just like, whoa, I was just in the studio with Tip.
The Chase Part 2 remix?
But Khan's actually, his first verse was on the flip of, you know, the Chase Part 2 off of Marauders. A lot of people say that Khan's was like Beast Round's Light, but it was actually him and No Name, you know what I'm saying, off of that shit. So
remember how I told you that Pharrell Williams could have been on Midnight Marauders, but he didn't make the album? Well, Q-Tip's cousin Consequence is on the album, on the Chase Part 2. Well, sorta. He's on the remix, and he sounds hella young, cause this was 93, 3 years before he would technically make his actual debut on Tribe's Beats, Rhymes, and Life album. I'll play a little bit of it for you.
I hit him with the boom, stick him, I hit him, it's the brother named Quince, not to fake him, but I still lick him, still bust that shorty, now you know who got the props, Consequence, AG flow, you know it just don't stop, cause the only was born to breed, I was born to smoke weed, indeed, I smooth played and then I popped the steed in you, yeah baby, I took you to the venue, and if my name was Coco, I still couldn't be into you, cause you got snuffed by the crook or two, bandit, who never got stranded, but kicking the funky lyrics since the transform was landed, Earth, that's just in my bottle, baby, pour. Now I'm crazy, my birth. Ain't got a bag of blue funk, but a bag of green skunk. So if you want it, motherfucker, knuckle up.
The 3-bar loop. I'll be honest and say, whenever I find out that a loop is in a different time signature other than the standard 4/4 time signature, it always fascinates me. The reason why is that I can't tell the difference. I understand that some people can, but producers like Tip, who have done this, have a way of expressing themselves artistically where they can make things work that don't seem like they should work. If you've been watching this long, first of all, thank you so very much. And just stick with me for a couple more minutes and listen as we return to his Red Bull Music Academy interview where Chairman Mayo and Q-Tip discuss the song Lyrics to Go and talk about 3-bar loops.
I mean, I said that I feel like this song is kind of representative of a lot of different things that are characteristics of your style. I mean, I guess one thing is it's a 3-bar loop, and you've done that a few times in your career, and I wonder what sort of vibe that gives off, do you believe? Or was that something that had just sort of happened? I mean, Electric Relaxation, the Mobb Deep track, Drink Away the Pain. There's another one I'm blanking on right now, but from Midnight Marauders. Is it lyrics to go? Is a 3-bar loop. What when you find something like that and you decide that that's what you're going to use, what sort of energy do you think that puts out?
I don't know. You know what? I just like the. I just like to kind of. To me, nothing pronounce. Well, I feel like that those things pronounce the rhythm even more because it's so kind of like, you know, I don't know, left of center of what the 4/4 thing that's happening. So just like putting it against it, it just makes it to me stick out more, makes it more pronounced, but in a good way. And it also soffits the 4/4 rhythm or whatever, you know, that even number that's there on the bottom. It just soffits it even more when you have whatever harmonic or melodic thing that you have going on top of it happening in its odd meter. Yeah, I just think it's interesting. And then, you know, for me to be kind of carrying on in an even meter against all of that, it's just an interesting cocktail to me. And I didn't really hear anybody in rap really approach it that way, you know what I'm saying, or do anything like that, or mess with time signatures like that, you know.
And in that same interview, they also discussed Q-Tip's work with Nas when he produced One Love for Illmatic. And if you want to know more about that story, then click on the video that's on your screen called 10 Things You Didn't Know About Illmatic. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in that next video. Peace.